everyone, this is Lindsay.
And this is Peter.
We start this accelerator with a taste test between two well-known business rivals, Starbucks and Dunkin', the two largest coffee chains in the entire United States. You ready, Peter?
What am I doing here?
Well, coffee from Starbucks and coffee from Dunkin'. I need you to tell me which one you like the best.
I am a coffee snob, and I will tell you right now, I know exactly which one I will like. So I'm going
And
to.
it's only independent coffee? We know you're there with them.
I'm going to, if it's not pour over, I'm not drinking it, okay? But I'm already going to be biased. I already know what I'm going to like, so I'm probably not the best candidate for this experiment.
Ah!
However, Molly, why don't you come out here? Give us a hand here.
So here she is, Molly Herman Gallo, our videographer, former Elon grad and a YAB of the Presbyterian Church USA, and now the impromptu taste tester between Starbucks coffee and coffee from Dunkin'.
Right.
Okay, so I don't think they're too hot. Just go ahead and take a sip and tell me which one you like best. Sorry. Really?
I think this is the winner, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
Delicious.
Molly has chosen the same coffee that most of the U.S. population chooses in a blind taste test. It would be Dunkin'.
No, I'm so loyal to Starbucks' apple cider, but I will give Dunkin' their coffee.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Molly chose Dunkin', and Dunkin' coffee consistently wins blind taste tests. The U.S. public believes Dunkin' serves better coffee, and yet that same public frequents Starbucks coffee shops more often. So what's up? Starbucks makes $23 billion more each year in revenue. It can't be accounted for by location. They only have 8,000 worldwide locations more than Dunkin'. So why are people showing up for Starbucks when they like Dunkin' coffee better? Well, Starbucks is not only selling coffee. They provide a third space beyond home or work where people can gather and build a sense of community. To paint broadly, their stores are attractive and comfortable. And furthermore, with some notable newsworthy exceptions that they are hopefully working on, customers may stay. They can sit a while, talk, read, listen to music, work on their computers. And with loneliness being epidemic in U.S. culture, providing easily accessible places and community offers significant meaning. With 57 million U.S. workers part of the gig economy, they provide informal meeting space, business space. It's value. At Dunkin', the ambiance is more like a fast food restaurant. Most of their sales come through the drive-through window, and at least in my experience at Dunkin', it is one of being given very disapproving looks by staff after staying in the store for anything more than the time it takes to consume my drink. So it's not a place to connect. Consequently, Starbucks can sell coffee and food that consistently ranks lower than Dunkin' and can be the more prosperous business because they sensed and responded to deeper needs. They provide meaning first, and they give coffee second. Similarly, it's no longer enough for churches to offer a healthy, organizationally strong church. Church communities must also offer meaning that they sense people need in their lives. This is why we start with why. Why are you starting a new worshiping community? Why is it important that your new worshiping community exists? What change do you believe God intends through God's new worshiping community that you lead? What change in a few lives? What change in a community? What change in an entire area? Meaning, fulfillment, being involved in things that matter is not reserved for the lucky few. Knowing you're part of something big that's worthwhile is one of the great gifts of new worshiping communities. And the why helps us act on purpose, with purpose. We experience deep meaning in our lives when what we do matches our deep values, our deep sense of call, our deeply rooted understanding of what is needed in this world. Enjoy this video by The Common Ground up in New York City. They're a new worshiping community led by organizing Pastor Chris Romine. And you can hear deep meaning that the people of this community enjoy because they are clear about their why.
To those who have been excluded by Christians, to those who have gone to church their whole lives, and to those who are exploring.
Bine ați venit!
Aloha kako.
Bienvenida!
Welcome. We hope that Common Ground can be a safe home for you.
If you have been rejected, silenced, or made invisible by the church as a person of color, as a woman, as a member of the LGBTQ community, as a non-Christian, as an unsure seeker, or for any other reason, we're sorry for the ways you were treated. We believe God loves you, and we would be honored by your presence.
We would be honored by your presence.
We'll tell you a little bit about ourselves, and we hope we can journey together with you.
Common Ground hopes to love people the way Jesus does. We don't want to judge. We want marginalized people to feel safe here. And we are still improving as an inclusive place. With each day, our understanding of God's love widens, and we promise to continue learning. Our core values are hospitality,
Responsibility,
and authenticity. And we commit to practicing these core values through community,
collaboration,
and care.
This is the foundation of our life together. We're building a generous and welcoming community, and we encourage creativity and storytelling. We love the way God speaks to us through art, and we see God in everyone's story. We don't claim to know the truth fully, but we seek to follow Jesus and we seek to grow together. If these are things you can connect to, come visit us. We hope you will share with us who you are and help shape our community. With much love, Common Ground Church.
A lot of times I think we get so excited about the what, we get so lost in the how, but we forget about the why. And the why, in our opinion, and we're going to find out from some other church leaders, is the critical piece that oftentimes is overlooked, because everything has to begin with why. Because if you don't know your why, you're actually not going to know where you're headed. If you don't know your why, you're actually going to stumble over the what. If you don't know the why, the hows may diverge from where you're actually trying to go. One of the things that we always talk about in our church, called 4 points, is we always ask ourselves and remind ourselves over and over again, why are we doing what we're doing? And we use this idea of an imagery of a hill. And we look at a peak at the top of the hill and we say, this is where we are headed. This is our vision. This is our destination. This is where we are called to. But even that hill really begins with an understanding of why. Because if you ask me, I don't know about you, Lindsay, but I don't know where you guys are all from, but here in the South, where we are in the Metro Atlanta area, you can drive down any intersection, any road, and you will see 4 corners with a church on it, right? You'll see the local Presbyterian church, the First Presbyterian church of this particular city, the First Baptist church of that particular city. You'll see the First Methodist church, and so forth and so on. It's like competing McDonald's and Burger King or Bank of America and Wells Fargo or what have you. And you see this all the time here in the South. And there are certain roads where they're nicknamed, Church Alley or Church Row, and you just have just a whole host of different churches. And so a lot of people, when they hear that you may be starting a new worshiping community or you may be starting some version of a church, the first question they may ask you is, why? There's so many churches already. Why do we need another church? I think that's a legitimate and valid question. And I think that's a reminder for us that we need to have a clear understanding of why. Why are we starting our new worshiping community? Why are we starting our new church? And that why then will open up additional answers. Well, for whom is this church for? What are we going to do? How are we going to do this worshiping community? But all of it begins with the why, because if our why is murky, if our why is unclear, next thing you know, you're going to be heading down a trajectory that you realize, wait a minute, this is not exactly where we thought we were going to be. And I would argue a lot of that begins with not having a crystallized, clear understanding of why our worshiping communities exist. So as I mentioned, why is, at least for me, the most important place to begin. And for us at this church that I started in 2012 called 4 Points, again, there's so many churches in the Metro Atlanta area, but there was a segment of the people that were not being reached. They were not being connected. And we identify these people at 4 Points as what we call third culture people. What we mean by that is that they are Asian Americans, second, third generation Asian Americans, whether they're Korean descent, Chinese, Taiwanese, Vietnamese, so forth and so on. But the churches that are currently in existence in the Metro Atlanta area are not reaching them. They're not connecting with them. And there's literally tens of thousands of this particular demographics in the Metro Atlanta area that are being de-churched or unchurched. A lot of them grew up in the immigrant church context, but because they don't speak the immigrant tongue, it just doesn't work. A lot of them try the American churches, but because of the cultural differences, it just isn't a good fit. And so what happens oftentimes is that these people just stop going to church and start losing their faith or stop practicing their Christian journey. And when I see that, it just really burdens my heart. And that was our why. What if there was a church that was different from the immigrant church, different from the existing American church, but could be a unique church that reaches to this third culture community, people who are neither here nor there, that exist in this liminal state? Because there are so many people who are kind of falling through the cracks there. That was our why. So that was the flag post that we put on the hill. That was our vision. This is why we exist. This is what we're going toward, to create a spiritual home for those who are spiritually homeless because they are third culture, because they're in this liminal state. So for us, that was our why. Everything that we do flows from that and keeps us on that journey and that path. And from there is then how we discover the what, the hows, and all the other things. But it all began with the why. And oftentimes, that why is actually equated to the who. Who is our community? Who are we wanting to reach out to and give meaning and worth and value and ultimately help experience the love of God too? Mm-hmm. So that is kind of how we started. And in my opinion, that's actually the most important place to start as we are developing our new worshiping communities. I want to share with you just a quick story in terms of how the why connects with meaning and how it brings meaning to people. So there was this one particular family that started to come to our church, and I had a conversation with them. And during this conversation, something that this husband said to me was incredibly profound. It's one of those things that I will never forget, and I share this to our community over and over again. So what this dad was saying to me was, my family and I, we could fit in anywhere. I mean, we fit in the American church, we fit in the immigrant church, we can go and fit in. But this was the first church where I felt like I belong. That is meaning. Yeah. That's why we exist. And so starting with your why is so vital and crucial, because that is what we want to offer as meaning and value to people. And from there, let's start testing ideas to see how is it helping us fulfill our why. We want to take this moment to introduce you to some of the new worshiping communities that you'll be seeing throughout this time that we have together. But we want to start by not just introducing you to them, but we want you to hear their story, their why. So let's take a listen.
AIJcast is a podcast. It's a weekly podcast featuring artists and conversations at the center of art, inspiration, and justice.
So Oikos, that means a household. So we exist to make a space for the international students from all over the world.
The Commonplace is a shared ministry space in Southwest Philadelphia. It's a sacred space to do life together.
We are a new church. We've been around about 3 years, and our church has really tried to be a good neighbor.
Put these shoes. You arrive another place, you don't know where anyone. You miss food, miss everything. You find a place when the people carry you. When it's possible hear your voice, share your history. When you find these places like you find a family, you're not more alone.
Shalom is a cross-cultural ministry that gather people from different parts of the world.
It started really trying to bring together faith into the fitness world.
I recognize that there are a bunch of churches of ethnic cities, but most of the churches located out of the perimeter of Atlanta area. And the international student doesn't have transportation to get to the church.
What that looks like is a lot of listening, a lot of relationship building, and a lot of living in the neighborhood, being here consistently, showing up for people and loving as best we can.
They're committed to serving children and families in that community through education, social service support, and faith formation.
You open space for making family. This is on the way in the Casa Brazil. This is the thing that we do.
It started out to be a church. It ended up being a virtual community rooted in conversations around those nodes of art and faith and justice.
At Shalom, we have a vision which says, seek the shalom of the community, because it is in Shalom that you will find your shalom. And this vision is taken from Jeremiah 29:7.
We get to see people every day take steps, take risks to do things that they haven't done before, to feel better about who they are physically.
Our 4 core values are welcoming others, being of service, opening our minds, and participating.
Out of being in a community, building relationship and learning about what is happening in the community, we came up with 4 core values. We are worship, learning, hospitality, and healing.
These friendships are forged here on the gym floor, intergenerationally and cross-culturally.
The thing that I've discovered about a lot of the artists that I talk to is that they are plunging sacred depths, even if they wouldn't necessarily identify themselves as religious, or if they themselves would identify as religious but wouldn't identify their art as such.
Being present and being in the community plays a very important role in people's lives.
So we brought the community and the fellowship and then the Bible, the gospel onto the community where there have been stuck.